Good evening. Welcome to the February 12th Cabarrus County Board of Education business session. The board has just come back from closed session. We will move to 5.01 with our presentation of colors. Please stand.
Presenting tonight's colors are members of the Air Force JROTC programs from Central Cabarrus, J.M. Robinson, Mount Pleasant, and Northwest Cabarrus High Schools. Representing Central Cabarrus, Cadet First Lieutenant Ethan Brewer. Representing J.M. Robinson, Cadet Major Leilani Secura. Representing Mount Pleasant, Cadet Master Sergeant William Farrell. And representing Northwest Cabarrus, Cadet Airman Basic Isaiah Crespo.
Left, haste. Reset, colors. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night as our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Order, colors. Post. Right, haste. Forward, march.
Honoring America tonight with the singing of our national anthem were members of the Central Cabarrus High School Chamber Choir, who earlier this year were invited to perform at the annual North Carolina Music Educators In-Service Conference. I feel certain you just heard the reason why. The director of the Central Cabarrus Choral Program is Mr. Ethan Price. Thank you.
Board members, we'll move to 6.01 to adopt the agenda. I will call for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Lindsay, a second by Ms. Escobar. Is there any discussion, board members? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Opposed? The agenda has been approved as presented. We will move to 7.01, our Impact Through Education Awards with Mr. Phil Furr. Welcome, Mr. Furr.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Kopicki, good evening. Tonight we will present Impact Through Education Awards to students and staff at Odell Elementary School and Harris Road Middle School. Our sponsors for the Impact Awards are our friends at Equitable. At this time, I would like to invite our Equitable representatives, Adrian Caspar and Lauren Barklow, to join me at the front of the room. Before we get started with the awards, please accept our sincere thanks and gratitude to Equitable for his continued sponsorship of the Impact Through Education Awards. Tonight, we continue with our 14th year of honoring those making an impact in our schools with this award. We appreciate your support and thank you for helping us celebrate and recognize deserving students and staff. We also want to say a word of thanks to the Cabarrus Regional Chamber of Commerce and to Concord Trophy Center for providing us with the award plaques each month. Now on to tonight's awards. May I have the Odell Elementary School administrative team come forward, please? Our first honoree from Odell Elementary is Chethrika Gadamanini. Chethrika, please come forward with your family. Chethrika has made a lasting impression on each of her teachers at W.R. Odell Elementary School. She is a student that exemplifies their mission statement to persevere, innovate, and problem solve with integrity to become a compassionate global citizen. Chethrika's perseverance is exhibited every day as she moves from class to class. She accepts each learning opportunity with a positive attitude and an open mind and is always engaged in the task at hand. She has a compassionate heart and always treats others with respect, whether it be a fellow student who needs a friend or a member of the staff who could use support. Chethrika knows that there is a time for work and a time for play, and she is an enthusiastic member of her weekly class Capture the Flag game. She is not one to shy away from rescuing a team member or rushing for the flag, and she is always a good sport no matter what the outcome. We're fortunate to get the opportunity to teach Chethrika at W.R. Odell, and she has most definitely made an impact on all of our lives. Congratulations, Chethrika. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Odell Elementary School. Our next honoree from Odell is Konstantinos Maliaros. Konstantinos, please come forward with your family. Konstantinos is a kind, considerate, respectful, and intelligent young man. He has great leadership qualities. This is evident in the way he helps classmates with academics and how he makes Google slide presentations to share his culture and traditions and teaches Greek dancing to his peers at recess. Along with a few classmates, he has helped create a peer counseling group for fellow fifth graders and is in the process of helping to create a kindness club for the school. He adds to our classroom community as he encourages students to be their best and to appreciate and recognize that each individual is to be valued for who they are. He shares his artistic ability and kindness by creating personalized pictures, acknowledging each classmate's own interest. One of the pictures he made was using the periodic table elements to creatively describe his science teacher, using the nickel, Ni, and cerium, Ce, symbols to spell Nice. Konstantinos is a role model for all. Congratulations, Konstantinos. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Odell Elementary School. Also from Odell Elementary School is support staff member Thomas Jackson. Mr. Jackson, please come forward with your family. Thomas joined the Odell staff last year and instantly endeared himself to the other staff members. Tommy's hard work and attention to detail make the third grade hall shine and the building hum along. He is quick to respond to any request for help with a smile and a positive attitude. Tommy is a problem solver around the building and makes everyone's day better with his cooperative approach. He is professional and a joy to work alongside. We're so thankful for Tommy at Odell Elementary. Congratulations, Tommy. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Odell Elementary. And finally, from Odell Elementary School is teacher Adriana Kipp. Ms. Kipp, please come forward with your family. Adriana is an outstanding teacher and EC lead at Odell Elementary. She has a huge heart and true love for students, working tirelessly and endlessly to address their needs. She consistently supports her colleagues with empathy and expertise and always has time for anyone in need. Adri makes positive contributions to our culture and is always willing to pitch in whenever and wherever needed. On the days she needs a boost, she instead finds opportunities to encourage others and models collegiality for us all. She is an effective collaborator and a truly gifted educator. We're grateful for her and her heart every day at Odell. Congratulations, Adriana. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Odell Elementary. We will now continue with our February Impact Through Education Awards by welcoming Harris Road Middle School. May I have the Harris Road administrative team come forward, please? Our first honoree from Harris Road Middle School is Morgan Lewis. Morgan, please come forward with your family. Morgan is one of those rare individuals for whom we would like all students to aspire to emulate. Morgan is a straight A student, a member of the Harris Road Middle School Beta Club, and an honors chorus member. One of Morgan's teachers wrote, "Morgan is a student you can always count on to work hard and complete her work on time. She is dedicated to her work, and it shows in all aspects of learning. Morgan is known for coming into class with a positive attitude and a contagious smile. She is helpful with others and is a consistent volunteer within the classroom. I would love to have 100 students like Morgan." Another one of Morgan's former teachers said this about Morgan: "Morgan is the kind of student who sees the good in everyone, even when they don't see it in themselves. She is a friend to all and moves with a purpose. She is everything we speak about when we say our character traits and creed each morning at Harris Road Middle School. She has high expectations for herself and makes those around her better. Morgan's cheerful disposition, excellence in and out of the classroom, and determined spirit garners the respect and admiration of her peers and teachers. Congratulations, Morgan. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Harris Road Middle School." Our next honoree from Harris Road is Brooklyn Spiker. Brooklyn, please come forward with your family. Brooklyn epitomizes what it means to be a Harris Road patriot. A hard worker in and out of the classroom, Brooklyn's impact on Harris Road reaches far beyond her excellent academic record. Brooklyn is an active member in our Beta Club and often volunteers within the school and community. One of Brooklyn's teachers wrote, "Brooklyn's curiosity is truly unmatched. She works to seek a deep understanding of the material in class and is willing to fail in order to succeed. She holds herself and her peers to high standards and always puts forth 200% effort. You can look at Brooklyn working in class and see her wheels spinning. She's a great leader due to her ability to encourage her classmates to think deeply." Another one of Brooklyn's teachers said this about Brooklyn: "Brooklyn is a pleasure to work with and always takes a keen personal interest in our living and learning students. As a peer helper for our special needs students, she's considerate, compassionate, and always kind. Our living and learning students always look forward to seeing and spending time with her. Brooklyn's compassion for others and dedication to her work has earned her the respect and admiration of her peers and teachers. Congratulations, Brooklyn. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Harris Road Middle School."
Good job.
Next from Harris Road is staff member Kelly Miller. Ms. Miller, please come forward with your family. As our front office receptionist, Ms. Kelly Miller is the face of Harris Road Middle School. Ms. Miller conscientiously ensures each parent, student, or teacher who enters our school feels welcomed, respected, and has his or her needs met. Despite the challenges of her role, she must know the answers to every possible question ever posed by someone calling the school. Ms. Miller meets those demands with grace and a smile. Her helpful, pleasant demeanor has earned her the respect and admiration of our parents and the Harris Road community. One of Kelly's colleagues wrote, "Kelly is an unflappable and calming presence in an office that has a lot of activity. She is kindness and patience personified and has a great sense of humor to help keep everything in perspective. Harris Road is a more welcoming, organized, and happier place because of Ms. Miller." Congratulations, Kelly. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Harris Road Middle School. And finally, from Harris Road Middle School is teacher Jody Hott. Ms. Hott, please come forward with your family. As one of the original teachers who first taught at Harris Road when the school opened 21 years ago, Jody is the heart of Harris Road Middle School. Her loving leadership is woven into the fabric of the school and can be felt in all aspects of life at Harris Road. She embodies the sentiment, one does not need to have a title to be a leader. Whether securing community help for a student needing major dental surgery, organizing the Relay for Life and Locks for Love charitable events, coordinating students' visits to the homeless shelter, serving as PLC chair, or co-creating a math textbook for our students, Jody is committed to the learning taking place inside and outside of the classroom. One of Jody's colleagues wrote, "Jody Hott is a fount of positivity. There isn't another faculty member who does more to create a sense of community at Harris Road Middle School. She is the sort of teacher that makes a school feel like a home." Another colleague had this to say about Ms. Hott. Ms. Hott is Harris Road. She has been at the school since it opened its doors in 2002 and has made a lasting and positive impact on the staff, students, and community. When there is someone in our school community in need, she is the first to step in, even to the extent of twice offering her home to students whose living situations were disrupted. Harris Road is a better place because of Ms. Hott, and no one has made more of an impact on the education and student experience at Harris Road than she has. Congratulations, Jody. You're an Impact Through Education Award winner for Harris Road. This concludes our Impact Awards presentations for tonight. Congratulations to all our recipients, and thanks again to our partners, Equitable and the Cabarrus Chamber of Commerce, for your partnership.
Thank you. We'll move to 7.02 with our Hillbush Ford Teacher of the Month with Dr. Michael Williams. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Kopicki, and to our viewing audiences, both here and those watching the live stream. It is my pleasure to recognize our Hillbush Ford Teacher of the Month for February. We always want to begin with expressing our sincere thanks and gratitude to Mr. Tim Vaughn and Hillbush Ford for their tremendous generosity and continued sponsorship of this wonderful recognition program. Our Hillbush Ford Teacher of the Month for February is Elizabeth Thompson, a multi-subject teacher at the Cabarrus Early College of Technology. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Thompson, her family, and the Cabarrus Tech administrative team in attendance to please come forward. Tonight, I would like to share the 2 nominations that were submitted by students about Ms. Thompson. The first student wrote, "Ms. Thompson always goes above and beyond by taking responsibilities that no one else would. Right now, she is the Math 1 and Math 3 teacher, one of the seminar teachers, the person doing yearbook, an activity bus driver, the robotics coach, and the organizer for CabTech's Camp Discovery. All of these tasks are done amazingly, and she still helps people if they ask for it." The second student wrote, "Ms. Thompson is one of our most supportive teachers we have at CabTech. This year, we lost both of our math teachers around the end of first quarter. Ms. Thompson, who normally teaches only seminar, has taken on the role of teaching both the freshman Math 1 and teaching the sophomores Math 3 at the same time, 126 students. She is also one of the best robotics coaches that I've ever had, always making sure we have the supplies we need. She does so much for our school, and I think she should be recognized for that. Ms. Thompson, thank you for the impact you have made to teach, engage, and inspire the students in your classroom, and congratulations on your selection as Cabarrus County Schools Hillbush Ford Teacher of the Month."
Let's turn that thing inside out so we can see the beautiful certificate. All right, 1, 2,
Board members will move to 7.03, our Everyday Hero Award winner with Dr. Jonathan Bowers and Mr. Art Whitaker. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Hope you're doing well. Members of the board, Dr. Kopicki. Again, it's once again my pleasure to stand before you tonight and introduce this month's Everyday Hero Award recipient. Sponsored by Great Wolf Lodge, the Everyday Hero Award is intended to acknowledge the outstanding behind-the-scenes, above and beyond work of our operations team personnel. This award is presented monthly to an exceptional person within the auxiliary services team, which is comprised of our construction, facilities and maintenance, Kids Plus, school nutrition, and transportation divisions. We all know there's great work being done every day by these employees, as well as many other employees across Cabarrus County Schools. And every day we should do our best to be able to recognize that publicly. Nominations for this award are submitted by Cabarrus County Schools employees, students, and parents, and one recipient is selected each month to be recognized for this award. This month's recipient of the Everyday Hero Award is Mr. Eugene Kellis, lead bus driver at West Cabarrus High School. Unfortunately, due to a family obligation, Mr. Kellis is unable to be with us this evening. However, accepting on his behalf tonight is Mr. Art Whitaker, Director of Transportation, and he's going to share with you why Mr. Kellis was chosen as this month's Great Wolf Lodge Everyday Hero Award recipient.
Mr. Eugene Kellis is a lead bus driver at West Cabarrus High School. He has been with CCS for 13 years, 12 of which he is a lead driver. He started off his tenure at the Cox Mill High School area and later transitioned to West Cabarrus. He describes himself as a logistic person. He loves putting puzzles together. He stated, when he came on board, his new supervisor came on board, he wanted to make sure that she was successful. Mr. Kellis would come by the transportation offices every single solitary day and sit with his new supervisor because he wanted to put those daily coverages together. Once again, he likes putting puzzles together. Sometimes even giving himself even a heavier load than when it was necessary. When his supervisor states he is a true team player, he's considerate, he takes his cares of his schools, he's a good resource for his peers, and he's just all around loves his job. Mr. Kellis's humility and leadership skills made him a perfect choice for the Everyday Hero Award for Transportation. We are lucky to have him. Unfortunately, as Dr. Bowers indicated, Mr. Kellis cannot be here tonight with us. He is at Disney World with his grandchildren. I will accept this behalf. I'll accept this on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to 7.04 and our School Counselor of the Year with Mr. John Basiliste. Okay, we'll move to 8.01, approval of minutes. Board members, I need a motion to approve the open session minutes for January 8th, 16th, 22nd, and 29th.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Ms. Lindsay, a second by Ms. Escobar. All those in favor of approving these minutes say aye. Aye. Opposed? The open session minutes are approved. We will move to 9.01 with board chair comments. First and foremost, board members, I want to thank all of you for your dedication and numerous meetings that we've attended over the past month and a half. Believe it or not, this is our 7th board meeting in a row since January. The work we accomplished during this time has been hard and detailed and required a lot of extra time and effort above what we are normally tasked to do. I also want to thank each of you for the additional time you spent on this project, since you all have families, jobs, and other responsibilities outside of your board membership. Being a school board member is one of the hardest roles as an elected official, and it can be a thankless one. Tonight we make our final decision regarding the district-wide long-range realignment plan. With that in mind, we must remember that our mission is to provide a world-class education to all the children in our district. This decision will affect not only our current student body, but the next generation of students that will attend Cabarrus County schools. I recently thought about the district logo that is on the wall behind us and envisioned the faces of all the children that we're responsible for educating. If they were all seated together, they would fill several of our football stadiums, and if their family members were present, it would be well over 100,000 people. President John F. Kennedy said, "Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future." We'll now move to 9.02 with superintendent comments with Dr. John Kopicki.
Thank you, Mrs. Adcock. This week, as Mr. Whitaker is here with us this evening and always, I want to inform the board and our public that it is Love the Bus Week. And I'd like to take a moment tonight and personally thank each and every bus driver, mechanic, scheduler, and transportation department employee across the district. February 12th through February 15th is Love the Bus Week, and I'd like to encourage all of us and everyone to thank a transportation department member should you come upon the occasion to interact with one. Not only does our transportation department carry the awesome responsibility of transporting our students to and from school safely each day, but they are often the first school personnel that see our students, and many times the last person to see them when they're dropped off at the end of the day. Our district is better because of the level of customer service exhibited by every member of our transportation team. To them, I say thank you very much. And again, if you see anyone in the transportation department and our bus drivers, please thank them for their service. I'd like to remind everyone that Monday is a staff development day and a spring break reminder as well. Monday, February 19th, there is no school. It will be President's Day, so our students will not be here, but our staff will have a staff development day on that day. And our spring break begins on March 4th through March 8th. Due to spring break, there will be one combined work and business meeting of the Board of Education on March 11th. A program choice update. As a reminder to our program choice families, you should be on the lookout for an email on Thursday, February 15th, with notification of placement for the 2024-2025 school year. The deadline for accepting that placement has been extended to February 28th to accommodate our realignment timeline. If you have any questions about program choice, please email programchoice@cabarrus.k12.nc.us. And as always, you can check our website for any further information. There are two district-wide events that are coming up in April that I wanted to make the public aware of. One is on April the 9th from 5 to 8 p.m. Cabarrus County Schools will host our annual Hispanic Family Resource Night, and this event will be held at Winkler Middle School. On April 24th from 6 to 8 p.m., Cabarrus County Schools will hold its annual Student and Family Mental Wellness Forum at J.M. Robinson High School. Both of these events were huge successes last year, and I look forward to seeing our community take advantage of these great engagement opportunities this year. Please look for more information on these events on our district website in the coming weeks. And again, reminding everyone when you visit our schools, please take notice that February is Black History Month, and we are celebrating the key history of the Black American History Month, We are celebrating the key folks honoring Black History Month this February in all of our schools. And as you go through the schools, you'll see a lot of different celebrations, a lot of different artwork, a lot of different presentations that honors that particular month and the celebration in all of our schools. So I thank all of our schools and our students for that work, and that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to 9.03 with our board attorney comments with Mr. Gil Middlebrooks.
Thank you, Ms. Adcock. Tonight I want to update the board on two federal matters that are related, that are expected to become public. And the first one are the new Title IX regulations that are projected to be released in March. They just crossed from the Department of Education to the Office of Management and Budget for a fiscal impact study. That's the last step before those regulations are released to the public in final form. The second is the related matter of the U.S. Department of Education's new rules on athletic participation by transgender students. And those rules have not yet gone across to OMB, so I think there could well be some delay. On a state level, let me back up. One final thing on Title IX. When the new Title IX regulations are released, we hope in March, we will immediately start working with Dr. Kopicki and his cabinet, because we will need to train across the district at various levels, at every school and every function. At a state level, the House Select Committee on Educational Reform has been meeting while the General Assembly has not been in session. In January, they met focusing on teacher pay, especially disparities impacting female teachers. And today, they met about what they call the funding cliff, dealing with ESSER. You have heard from Mr. Penn and others about, and Dr. Williams, about the impact of the going out of the ESSER funds and what districts are doing there, and how we are working to keep people who were hired with those funds. The other thing that the House Select Committee on Educational Reform has been working on is new ways to prepare students for Math 1, to address perceived problems in those students when they hit 8th and 9th grade, being ready for that core math course. Although the House Select Committee's working on those things, we don't expect right now any new educational bill activity to come out of that, at least for a few months. That's all I've got. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Board members will move to 10.01 with our guest speakers address the board.
I had a question about one of the acronyms. You said OMD. Can you just clarify?
I'm sorry, OMB, Office of Management and Budget.
Okay, thank you.
They're the bean counters.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, we're going to move to 10.01, our guest speakers. It is now time for public comment. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak, and an individual speaking for a group may be allowed up to 5 minutes at the discretion of the board chair to express interests and concerns related to the official business of the board and school district. The speakers will be called in the order in which we received their request. A person may not be substituted for a speaker, nor may one speaker donate time to another speaker. If a speaker runs out of time, then the speaker may leave the additional information with the board clerk. Statements reasonably perceived to be disruptive or threatening to the orderly operation of the meeting shall not be permitted. Any limitation on public comment shall be viewpoint neutral. The board chair has the authority to rule the speaker out of order. If a speaker or attendee willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts this meeting and refuses to leave after being asked by the board chair, then the speaker may be escorted out and could be arrested for trespassing or disrupting an official meeting. Board members will not respond to individuals who address the board except to request clarification of points made by the presenter. The first speaker is Michelle Morrison. Good evening.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Board of Education. Once again, I stand before you as a representative of the north of Highway 73 community, united against the proposed realignment.
Can you cut your mic on?
Got it now? Okay. Does my time start over? Okay. Oh. Good evening, esteemed members of the Board of Education. Once again, I stand before you as a representative of the north of Highway 73 community, united against the proposed realignment. We express our gratitude for your willingness to delve beyond mere statistics and consider how this impacts our students. The exhaustive efforts of Dr. Kopicki, Dr. Bowers, and their team over the past 9 months to attempt to address the inevitable challenge of county growth are greatly appreciated. They are correct that any modifications to revised option C will trigger a domino effect. We understand those revisions will take additional time and work. Yet, it needs to still be stressed that leadership involves more than adherence to predetermined plans. It demands an openness to diverse perspectives and a willingness to adapt in the face of community input. The community's input has been completely disregarded. Not a single alteration has been made to the proposed plan in response to our concerns voiced through the focus group, surveys, emails, or engagement webpage. This raises fundamental questions about the inclusivity of the decision-making process. Based on the capacity charts presented in September, we still have another year to analyze realignment and integrate community feedback to ensure accuracy. Rushing to finalize the realignment without due consideration for alternative options is concerning. While we acknowledge the urgency of addressing staffing and school needs, we urge caution against hasty decisions that have long-term repercussions. Just as our children are taught to strive for accuracy over expediency, we implore you to apply the same principle here. We have not been provided with long-term projections following the proposed revised Option C changes. This information is crucial, and the lack of it is troubling. As observed by Mr. Walters, we have even less data than the last rezoning. Without a clear understanding of how this plan will alleviate overcrowding and benefit our schools in the coming years, it is difficult to justify its implementation. Additionally, the notion that this realignment aligns seamlessly with the facilities master plan is tenuous at best. The immediate impact of realignment contrasts starkly with the long-term nature of the master plan, leaving us uncertain about its efficacy. As we stand on the brink of an election year, the uncertainty surrounding future commitments to the master plan and funding for crucial projects only adds to our apprehensions. With a brand new Board of Education and county commissioners on the horizon, there's no guarantee that they will uphold the plan or allocate funds accordingly. Can we, in good conscience, uproot thousands of our children based on uncertain outcomes? Let's revisit the metrics once more and how it affects the north of Highway 73 community. The issue of proximity cannot be overlooked, especially in light of existing transportation challenges. Last Monday, it was stated that bus routes won't be an issue, but vacancies will. This is currently a huge issue with the current need of 66 drivers across the county, 5 of which are needed at Harris Road. This need will exponentially increase over the years with the addition of more students in schools. Students are already having challenges with double bus runs and tardiness. Lengthening our bus routes without addressing the ongoing shortage of drivers will only exacerbate the problem and inconvenience our students further. The realignment data shows that the average distance traveled will be 3.82 miles. My community will go well above that from our current 4.6 miles to 8.6 or even 9.7 depending on route. Test drives are 20 minutes only in perfect conditions. The future construction expanding both Highway 73 and Poplar Tent and Harris Road will only increase that drive time. During the last rezoning, the Transportation Department explained that it would be less of a burden to move the Highland Creek and Christenberry kids to Winkler than it would be to move north of Highway 73 to Northwest. This realignment option reverses that decision and hands their problems now back over to us. We want to know why this decision is being reversed when there have been no changes in physical landscape or conditions. It has also been suggested to prioritize the benefits of the other 3 metrics over proximity. However, this does not hold true for our community. Our current feeder pattern has all of Odell going to Harris Road Middle. Revised Option C splits Odell with 71% going to Harris and 29% then going to Northwest. I hope we can agree that being separated from your friends while also dealing with puberty is not ideal. I hope we can, as far as utilization, Harris Road gains 120 students immediately after this realignment. How does that help with our overcrowding? Our communities would much rather be overcrowded in a school that we are in close proximity to rather than further away. As far as diversity, after the realignment, the average household income takes a drastic fall at Winkler and spikes at Harris Road. In fact, Cox Mill Elementary, Harris Road, and Cox Mill High then become the feeder pattern with the highest average income of over $150,000 at each school, something Dr. Powers admitted that should be avoided. In conclusion, we propose that you vote no to this realignment plan. Allow time to explore alternative solutions that prioritize community input, address long-term sustainability, and minimize disruption to our students, such as creating more program choice schools, which can help control student populations as proposed by Dr. Kopicki earlier. Our children deserve nothing less than a thoughtful, comprehensive approach to their education and well-being. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Amy Baker. Welcome.
Thank you. Am I on? I am from the Twin Creeks development. I don't have any notes, so I'm speaking from the heart. I have 4 littles, 3 of which are at Cox Mill. 1 is at Winkler. And we moved here 4 years ago. And our front of our house is basically facing Dorita Road, or Dorita, however you say it. And we kind of sat around, we quickly realized that we are really close to the football games and all the sounds that happen on Friday nights. And we would sit around our fire pit, and it kind of became a little bit nostalgic. Except for when I'm putting my 3-year-old to bed and it's like, oh wow, we just scored again. That's how close we are to Cox Mill High School. In 2001, which is really long time ago, I got my master's in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. And I took a little series of classes, 3 classes on strategic planning. So my professor was amazing, and we went through all the nuts and bolts involved with strategic planning. One thing that I remember, so it was a long time ago, so I don't remember a lot, but one thing that I remember, she would drill over and over and over that you can have this amazing strategic plan, but the difference between good leadership and great leadership is how you listen to your people and tweak the plan. And so that's what I'm here to ask you to do for our neighborhood. We want to be that tweak in your plan. And we have 2 high school students in our entire little neighborhood. We have 2 high school students. We have 3 middle school students, and we have 8 elementary school students. And we hear the games, and we see the lights. Can we be that tweak in your plan? Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Palmer.
Hello, thank you for hearing me tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you, board members. I also come from Twin Creeks. I have 3 children, an elementary student, a middle school student, and a high school student. Like we've said, I'll echo it again. These are our closest schools. We haven't fit the metrics that you guys have laid out. We're being displaced to schools further away. We were rezoned already for middle school 2 years ago. You'll hear from my daughter in a little bit. It's been an extremely emotional thing. It's cost us after school activities because of the drive distances. We've given our feedback. We've sent emails. We've talked to people on the board. We've shown up at events. We've laid out all the things that you've laid out as your metrics, what you determine where you're going to put students. We have 12 students, like we said, 2 high school, 2 middle school, and a handful of elementary school students. This is going to impact them immensely. Having myself being able to drive to pick all those up at the different times, if they get hardships, it's unpracticable. Excuse me. You, Ms. Sandage, asked a question to the committee who was designed to put this rezoning together. You asked them, what did you learn from this process? You asked for feedback. What did you learn from that feedback? They gave some cliche answers. Then you had to re-ask this question twice. What changes did you make based on that learning? Nothing. That was the answer, nothing. We ask again, please look at our community, look at where we are. You took a division of Dorita Road, and instead of making that the division, you could have easily moved it to the other side of to the highway right behind us where the airport is. You're asking us to drive past the airport, past a freeway to get to our new schools. We can see them. They're right there on the other side. And we have a bus route that goes right down Dorita. It would not add to the bus route at all. But now, because we're being rezoned with Plan C, there'll have to be buses coming from the other side of the freeway to make a special trip just for our students. It makes no sense. I cannot find one metric that meets why we'd be rezoned. Sorry, I didn't want to miss any points. The last point I wanted to say is our community has been there for 40 years. We watched the development of those schools. They were built after our neighborhood was already there, and now are being asked to be rezoned. So please, again, consider us to be that retweak. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Ms. Sandage would like to ask you a clarifying question, Mr. Palmer.
You said about the extracurricular activities. Can you tell me what you meant about that? You gave up some extracurricular
So
activities.
when extracurricular activities happen in a school, you usually miss the bus. So that means the parents have to go and pick up those students. That high school is 10 times further than the high school at Cox Mill is to our community. The elementary school is 6 times further. Middle school, we've already been rezoned. That wasn't really my focus. The middle school is further, but I didn't get those calculations. But those are the things that we're going to have to deal with when our students take drama club, participate in sports. Now we're going to have to pick them up, and it's going to be that much longer and that much more impactful. When you have kids at elementary, middle, and high school, you're making these at different periods of times of the day, and you can imagine how impactful that is when it's that much further. That's what I mean by that.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Susan Pless. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Susan Pless. I was born and raised in Cabarrus County, and I've lived in Concord for more than 40 years. I was so disappointed to learn that the board voted to close Beverly Hills Elementary and not rebuild this neighborhood school when it was such a high-performing school in our community and state. Given this decision to close Beverly Hills Elementary, the board should give the Beverly Hills student the same opportunities as the other community schools by letting the Beverly Hills students stay together at a nearby school with comparable performance while the new Culture and Webb Beverly Hills School is being built. The students at Beverly Hills Elementary should not be dispersed among multiple larger schools with longer commutes and lower performance levels, as this could potentially undermine the educational progress that they've achieved thus far at Beverly Hills. This situation is undoubtedly detrimental to these children and their families, and I'm certain that none of us as parents would wish for our children to be in such circumstances. The children really lost with this vote. They don't deserve to lose again. Remember, these are children, not just numbers, and their lives are changed forever by your decision. Please ensure equitable treatment for all children in Concord by extending the same level of consideration, care, and respect in your decision-making process. If you opt to keep the children of R. Brown, McAllister, and Culture and Webb together in a nearby high-performing school, I would hope that you would kindly extend this opportunity to the children of Beverly Hills as well. Additionally, I urge you to fulfill your commitment to rebuilding Culture and Webb, ensuring that both Culture and Webb and Beverly Hills students are included in this school with equal regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Asia Palmer. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Asia Palmer from Twin Creeks, and I am a freshman at Cox Mill High. And since 6th grade, my schooling positions have been really rough. In 6th grade, I got hit with COVID, and I had to do virtual schooling for a year. Then in 7th grade, I had one almost normal year in middle school until the end when I found out that I was going to be rezoned for my 8th grade year. This was a great stressor for me because I was going to have to make new friends at a whole different school and learn how to navigate around it all for 1 year of attending. Luckily, I was able to successfully get a hardship and stay at Harris Road for my last year, and that gave me the encouragement to make sure that this year was going to be the best out of my middle school career. I made the track team, got mostly A's, and made some of the best friends I've ever had. However, I'm not so sure that I'm going to be able to get a hardship this year as well, considering that I will have to stay at either school for 3 years, lowering my possibility of getting a hardship. I'm terrified that I'm going to have to throw away all that I have worked hard on building this year at Cox Mill: friendships, relationships with staffs and teachers, and familiarity of the school. Ever since I found out that the rezoning was even a possibility, I've been more stressed than I have been in a while. It's taken the joy out of knowing that there's room to grow at Cox Mill, whether it's with clubs or on a class pathway. And it's completely changed my mindset, knowing that this may be my last game while I still attend this school, or this may be one of my last club meetings, or that this may be one of my last months being able to call myself a Cox Mill Charger. It saddens me to know that I may not be able to have the same opportunities that my peers are going to have next year if I get rezoned, and I'm not going to be able to make these in-school memories with my friends, say on a team or at a club, or just in classes together. I also know that the possibilities of me participating in clubs at J.M. Robinson are slim, considering the extra amount of time that my dad talked about in a commute that takes away from time from my at-home responsibilities, threatening the possibilities of being in clubs altogether. But overall, the thing that is causing me the most sadness in the rezoning and the possibility of moving away from North Carolina altogether is losing all my friends. Out of my friend group, I'm the only one who is being rezoned. This is going to cause me to get isolated, whether I'm at a whole new school or I just have to get moved away from North Carolina. This is really, really threatening the possibility of me losing all my friends, and I'm sure all of you know how important friendships are to me, a teenage girl. I've switched schools a lot, and I can already tell you that this is going to be the hardest time for me, knowing everything that I may lose. So please, when you are making your decision tonight on whether you're going to rezone me or not, please think of how you are going to make or break my high school years. Thank you.
Thank you. Jula Hartzell Chisholm. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of SOS Group in our Beverly Hills community. Ms. Escobar, your response to your vote was, I can't make everyone happy. We were never asking you to make us happy, but we were asking you and your colleagues to hold those accountable for the negligence of addressing deferred maintenance, for the quiet removal of a Beverly Hills replacement from the capital plan, and mostly because each of you did have direct involvement with it, the lack of integrity, the lack of transparency, and the neglect of NCDPI standards and recommendations for the process of closing a school. If you knew that closing Beverly Hills was even a remote possibility, why did you let Cabarrus County Schools proceed without appropriate engagement of the community before these realignment scenarios were presented? You have eroded our trust in you as elected officials, and as a byproduct, you've deepened the mistrust that we have for the CCS staff. We were told by Dr. Kopicki that commissioners think that we provided you a new school at Royal Oaks and you just didn't take it. And that's not really what happened in 2017. How do we trust people when this is so inaccurate? How do we trust CCS when the superintendent did not even have correct information on magnet and STEM status of Beverly Hills? How can we trust CCS staff when your construction department inappropriately celebrates after presenting their plans on the pre-K on the site of our beloved school? I feel the need to remind everyone that these are children. These are children that they're defeating. Not us, not me. This is not about keeping score for adults. So now how can we be asked to trust the same staff that presented the Coltrane replacement as a combination school with Beverly Hills and days later states that most students would never even be brought back to Beverly Hills? This is the same person who dismissively stated that if people wanted a small school, they can just choose private. 68% of our schools disadvantaged. My kids are on supplemental health insurance. Don't tell me I can just choose private school when I believe in public schools as an institution, and I am trying my best to keep that belief. After this was brought to light, the superintendent gives us his word saying that we'll have the opportunity to attend the combined school. But honestly, I don't know how we can be expected to trust these words anymore. We can only trust action. It's hard being told operational cost is wasteful, because what is wasteful about staffing schools in a way that sets up all children for success? Why is it considered wasteful to have schools serving disadvantaged populations built at a size that sustainably supports them and offers teachers and staff there a sustainable workload? Beverly Hills was made out to be the problem child and a waste of money, but we've been quietly taking what's been given, which has been nothing, and managing to still be a top-performing school. You are voting tonight for a plan that requires millions of deferred maintenance per year, and as Ms. Lindsay pointed out, and as Beverly Hills stands as the example, you never have gotten what you needed for deferred maintenance. I'm concerned that from the very beginning, limited input and feedback wasn't even considered. The cooperative strategies recommendation was always going to be the only option. So what kind of influence do you even have as a board then? The only way that you as a board can bring any semblance of justice to this is to do what it takes to keep Beverly Hills together and swing us together while the Beverly Hills and Coltrane Webb combination replacement school is built. If you willingly voted to close our school based on CCS promise of a Coltrane Webb Beverly Hills replacement school at 750, then you will do what it takes to hold CCS to this promise. Ensure that Beverly Hills students actually get to attend. Please ask for potential boundary lines. Ask for Beverly Hills to be swung together while the new school is built. Beverly Hills is a downtown community. Keep these children as part of those schools. Swing them together, build that combination school, and let these children go to a new school that has been promised to them for years. In turn, you then can start to build back the trust that has been lost. The trust that's needed to have community support, and the community support is what's needed for these schools to actually be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Courtney Steinberg. Welcome.
Good evening. 3 weeks ago, in preparation for possible realignment, I contacted the Program Choice Office. My child is in a choice program outside of our home school district. I specifically asked what school my child would attend if the realignment passed. The website had some conflicting information, so I figured I'd just ask. The coordinator was very kind, but she couldn't tell me. She seemed caught off guard by my child's placement and said she would get back to me. As of now, I haven't received an answer. This shows how utterly unplanned this transition truly is. Understanding this is a choice you are making. Please also understand the ramifications of not having an actual transition plan, and they will fall squarely on you and your superintendent. A transition plan is not giving principals names and expecting them to figure it out. This pretty much is what was presented last week, and it's not acceptable to me, a parent, and it shouldn't be acceptable to you, a school board. At my child's elementary school, we don't even have a principal, as was told to us Wednesday night at 6 p.m. through a Parent Square notification, which brings me to my second point. The lack of support from your superintendent and staff at Weinkauf Elementary up until now. As an extremely involved parent, I go to all meetings and events. I go to the SIT team meetings, I'm the PTO representative in staff meetings, and I'm at every special event possible. I've never seen Superintendent Kapicki or Assistant Superintendent Parker at our school, despite having completely turned over our entire leadership team in the span of 2 years. After last month's SIT meeting, it became obvious the district was not meeting the responsibilities to our school, despite requests from our administration. One small example was that the principal had requested the next level training for teachers on de-escalation and behavior management, but they instead received the same training they had already gotten. This was a waste of time that gave the teachers no new tools. So, as you all know, I wrote 2 of my concerns. While I'll not rehash my concerns at the moment, you can understand my absolute shock when I received a cold, uninformative Parent Square note that our principal had been reassigned. This is not how personal changes are announced in this district, so the immediate panic and alarm set in with families. The message noted that additional administrative support would be in the school the next day. However, when I went to have lunch with my child, the only people that seemed to be there were HR staff observing our teachers. That seems an odd response to me as an HR practitioner. If you're so concerned you need to pull our principal without as much as a transition, then we need answers. We need to know if our school is safe. Are our children receiving what they need as far as learning and curriculum? What is the plan going forward, and who exactly will be at our school? Many parents have reached out directly to the district office, and the response is that the job will be posted and a survey will go out. As of today, no job has been posted and no survey has been sent. This is unacceptable. At the very least, respect parents enough to have an in-person meeting with us. Board members, you've heard for months how parents and community members have felt disrespected and dismissed by this administration. Allowing this behavior to continue, and now towards parents of a school who have already brought concerns to your attention, reflects not only on the superintendent but also on you. It's time to stop passing the buck. It's your responsibility to make sure these transitions are done and done well. Our children don't deserve to be treated as pawns in a game.
Thank you. Michael Berkowitz. Welcome.
It's good to be here again. It's been a while. Some of you I know. My name is Michael Berkowitz. I live at 1100 Sundance Drive, Concord, North Carolina. I can say that I was part of the people who volunteered at the building of Coxmill Elementary, and I've lived there for almost 30 years. My concern was, as I looked at the maps that you guys were given, and as a certified general appraiser, one of my jobs is to identify neighborhood and community boundaries. Nothing to that, but as Mr. Treadaway said at the last meeting I was attending, we have to do something. So I started looking a little further into it from a different perspective. I can hear the passion. I know you guys have the best intent of the children at hand. I do not doubt that for a second. But when I looked at some of these maps, I was looking at, again, the same problem we had several years ago. There's 1,200 acres bound by Rocky River, Derrida, and Poplar Tent Road. 1,200 acres. It looks really good when you change that area. 12 kids. I challenge you to find another sector that was changed for 12 children on 1,200 acres. Not the next closest school, not the closest school after that, not the closest school after that. 4 high schools. It's the 4th furthest away from our home. This is ludicrous. I have never seen a planning. I have been doing this for over 20 years. I stress on community service for myself, my children. My son still volunteers at the Coxville football team. If he was at J.M. Robinson, I couldn't do it. It took me 43 minutes to get there at rush hour to pick up someone. I feel for these kids. My kids are graduated. But I'm here to tell you that you are punitive to those 12 children to make a map look good. 1,200 acres, 12 kids. I can understand moving apartments and things of that nature, high density developments, I get it. 12 kids. I feel for that young lady. My kid went to 6 different schools, and I had to fight for him every single time. And it wasn't because of this board or anyone else. It was the teachers, it was the administrators, and they graduated with honors. One's getting a full scholarship right now. But I say this is punitive for 12 kids. Please listen to your constituents. We've been kicked around enough.
Thank you. James Fulton. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent, Madam Chair, members of the board. I was involved in the initial efforts to keep Beverly Hills Elementary School open, and have spoken before the board several times in the past. And I was just very moved by Ms. Hartzell's comments. Regarding the closure, I sort of have half a mind just to stand here for 3 minutes in silence to let her words ring. But I wasn't able to attend the January 16th meeting, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank publicly the members of this board who've opposed the closing and for remaining clear-headed and steadfast in their opposition. Your articulate and compelling comments in the last meeting made it clear that you've heard and respected what our community had to say, which I greatly appreciate, and that you faithfully acted as our representatives despite the difficulty of the decision and the pressures you've been subjected to. And just thank you very much.
Thank you. Melanie Freeman.
Welcome. Good evening. Madam Chair and board members. Tonight you will be voting on scenario C. What I would like you to keep in mind is that the members of this county are more than just entries on a spreadsheet. They have daily needs and responsibilities that add pressure to their days, and their greatest need is providing for their families. This week, we all received property reavals that will more than likely increase our tax bills, and put an even greater burden on family budgets. What I want you to consider is this: a perfect storm is brewing. Families have already been hit by rising grocery bills. Many have received electric bills with added fees, and insurance renewals are coming due and will result in significant increases. With overall inflation being around 20%, how much more can an average family absorb? Incomes will not keep pace with these increases. Your budget for the county represents the lion's share of what we pay for taxes. $1 billion is the ask this year. You voted to close Beverly Hills, and Coltrane Webb has been slated to be rebuilt. The cost for building a new school is estimated at $40 million. As I looked at the deferred maintenance costs and capital needs information, bringing Beverly Hills up to standard was estimated at $4 million. Coltrane Webb needed $13.8 million for new construction and renovation. You're looking at a fraction of the cost of a new build. When families will be feeling the crushing weight of all these increases, would it not make more sense to repair the schools at a huge savings? Not only that, but the repairs and new construct could be done during the summer and holidays without the disruption to the families the realignment will cause, especially those who want to keep their communities intact. Families will be looking at cutting not just wants from their budget, but needs. We cannot justify this huge outlay for designer schools with fancy finishes when our families are having to sacrifice their own needs to pay the outlandish taxes. The time for that is in a flourishing economy, which we do not have right now. Remember who you work for, and I pray you will exercise not only wisdom, but restraint and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, we'll move to 11.01, our committee reports. Are there any reports, board members? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to 11.02, our budget update with Mr. Philip Penn. Welcome, Mr. Penn.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Good to be with you again. As the folks in the back are just quickly pulling up the memo that we had shared in the last board meeting. The only comment I want to make on the memo is that we're going to change the memo going forward. What I realized after the fact is that I tried to put everything into one memo, which probably confused the issue. Going forward, what I'll do is I'll split it into two pieces. This was originally intended to, at the top in the bullets, to talk about the budget amendment, and the bottom is kind of like where we are, right? So going forward, I'm going to put together one memo that sort of speaks to what's in the budget amendment, and the second piece we'll talk to kind of where we are. But it's really the where we are that I want to talk to in tonight's meeting. So if we can just go on to the next page, that would be great. So one of the ways you're going to want to read this, and it does tie to the budget amendment that's on your consent agenda, is reading across the page. If you start with the State Public School Fund, that's the money we get from the state of North Carolina. The cumulative effect of all the budget amendments that we've made so far, and all the changes that DPI has given us so far, is $2.47 million. So we opened the year at 251.7. Add $2.5 million, we're now at 254,155. And if you were going to look at the amendment, you'd see that number in what is in the amendment for approval tonight. Then the way to keep moving across the page is, so far we've spent $128 million out of that, and most of that's payroll, as you might expect, right? The next column over is what do we have encumbered in purchase orders, and then the last piece is what is our unencumbered balance, right? Things that we haven't paid yet, or that's not entered on a PO. And you'd follow down the page the same way. What do we have in budget amendments within our local fund? What do we have within our federal grants? And then lastly, at the bottom, you see the big change that we made, and that was the hospitalization piece and that local special revenue, Fund 8, right? Now, one of the ways you may want to look at this, and it's kind of the way that I look at it, is how much have we spent so far compared to where we are in the year? Now, a couple of caveats to that. All right, so let's call this through at the end of December. 6 months into the year, I might expect to see about 50% of each of those lines spent over the course of that time. Now, the cutoff on the date on this, as it says at the very top, was January 23rd. But that was before we had our January big payroll, the one that comes at the end of the month. So by and large, you'd expect to see about 50% expended. And we're actually pretty close to that if you kind of follow down the page. The one spot that kind of sticks out is local, right? And you might expect that because that's where I've been talking about the deficit taking place so far all this year. Well, one of the things I was thinking about as I was sitting tonight and making some notes is it may be good to throw a percentage, either percentage left or percentage used column on the far right of this to say, okay, well, how does that compare to where we are so far in the fiscal year? Now, remember, as I said, the timing's not perfect, right? We tend to start the school year a little bit after the fiscal year starts, but it's a pretty good proxy about where we are. Now, if you go down to the next slide, it basically lays out the same information, right? But just a little more detail on each of the codes that sit underneath that. So you can see instructional services, what did that translate to within the state fund, and so on and so forth. But it recaps the same information with the same level of detail. But the piece that I look at is how are things transpiring, particularly within local, because that's where our issue is, and how do I see things playing out? Now, if you were to go back and reread the memo that was in the first page of the packet tonight, I mentioned a figure of $550,000. It's literally changed 7 times in the past 7 days, right? As different things have come in, both bad and good, and if I was to have to pick a number tonight, that number is closer to $950,000 tonight, right? So things move pretty quickly around here. Not all good, not all bad, but that's kind of where we are. Now, Dr. Kopicki and I were talking about this earlier today, and one of the things you may note is, we know we've got a legal settlement and some legal bills that were not anticipated in the budget. We've got some facilities work that was not anticipated in the budget. And if you were to back off both of those things, which I'm estimating between the two of them at about $1 million, well, we'd be pretty close to back to break even on our local budget again. So I credit to my team, and I like doing this with you. It's not just me, it's the team working hard at the problem. We'd be pretty close back to where we thought we would be. But that's one of the ways of sort of thinking about this going forward, and literally we're keeping a running tally of where we are, and then we're in the middle of my team of going through sort of line item by line item within the local budget, and reassessing where we are to say, okay, from the time we put our initial deficit estimate together, has anything else changed that we need to be aware of, in addition to the roughly 15 discrete items that I've tracked since we put those numbers together, okay? But like I said, I think going forward, we're going to split this into 2 parts and have narrative that sort of explains each part in a little more detail, and I think it'll make it a little bit easier for the board to follow going forward. Questions?
Mr. Treadaway.
Mr. Penn, I know traditionally at the school level, there is a kind of a drop dead date to encumber your money.
Correct.
I know it might be a little bit different this spring, but
right.
Is that date been established as far as when we know what we have encumbered?
Literally had a comment with that with my team the other day. I had a quick discussion. I think typically that's been around the end of March, beginning of April. I don't see that changing drastically in terms of the requisition entry time frame. We've already had good communications with the principals and the treasurers. Be careful what you order what you need, but don't order anything you don't need. They've been a very good job of that so far, by and large. So I don't expect to substantially change the time frame of that. Yeah, it's a good question, though.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, board members, we're going to move to 12.01, our consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the items listed.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Lindsay, a second by Ms. Escobar. Is there any discussion at all, board members, about any of the items on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the items on the consent agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Okay, board members, We will move to 13.01, our realignment recommendation. So we have had a recommendation for Plan C revised given by district leadership and cooperative strategies. I call for a motion to approve the recommendation by district leadership for realignment Plan C revised.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Escobar. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Treadaway. Is there any discussion, board members? Ms. Escobar?
So I wanted to take this opportunity to explain why I support this realignment. I think the biggest thing is feeder patterns. Kids and families need to have predictability when it comes to growth. We hired a consultant, and that consultant showed us that there were elementary schools here in Cabarrus County that were split between 4 or 5 high schools. So what is my role in this process? As a school board member, my job is to hire a consultant, question the consultants and staff. My job is not to draw lines on a map or give special attention to certain areas or neighborhoods. I say that because that has come into question. Yes, I was involved in a realignment for my neighborhood as a parent a couple years ago. I moved here for the schools, and when it was changing, I lobbied for one middle school and was reassigned to another. My daughter, who's in the Mandarin program, gave a speech about how she didn't want to go to a middle school away from her neighborhood. We lost. We lost our middle school, and program choice was moved to a new school. We can't control what we can't control. So we had to adjust and stop fighting. I can tell you she loves her new school. And our neighbors like their new middle school too. They love their teachers. They love their new teachers. I love her teachers. So not all my neighbors love the idea of switching middle schools. I can't make them happy. I said it to a room full of other parents last week. I can't make everyone happy. If you're not happy, tell me. You may not like the decisions I make, but that doesn't mean I don't care and I'm not listening. Who do I answer to? I answer to all 35,000 students plus. When I campaigned for this seat, I met people all over the county who love their schools in Mount Pleasant, Harrisburg, Midland, and Concord. People love their schools. I won election with over 20,000 plus votes. In this seat, I have to represent them and the other thousands of people who didn't vote for me. I was not elected just by my neighborhood. I do not make decisions for just them or for my girls. I also have to think about the people who haven't been following this process, what happens when we vote and they find out afterwards. I respect every person who has sent me an email, who has spoke during public comment. I respect it because I know what it takes to be there, that passion you have about you and your family. I know you care, and I do everything in my power to make sure your voice is heard. That's why when we hired the consultants, I asked them about community engagement and focus groups. When the focus groups were formed, I asked who was on them and where did they live. When people emailed me or spoke and asked me questions, I asked staff those questions. I asked them to vet community-presented plans. I have to vote on a recommendation. I have to make sure that that recommendation was fully vetted and questioned. Did staff and the consultant listen to the community? When they collected data and shared our feeder patterns, I asked questions. When they presented options, I asked questions. When people came to me and said, did they consider this? I asked questions. Throughout this year, I asked questions. I listened to you. I do not love everything in this plan, but I know it's been vetted and people's feedback and people had an opportunity to weigh in and share if they support it. Growth has to be addressed in a logical, data-driven way. This plan does that. More neighborhoods will stay together, and the public has shared they support it. Can you disagree with me? I respect that. Hold us to account. Let me know how things are going. Let me know if you don't love your school. You may not know my heart, but don't question my integrity. I did the work.
I ask the questions. I care about providing a quality education for all students. I moved here for the schools. The best part of this job is I get to meet the amazing teacher at all of our schools and truly understand why so many people love their schools like I do.
Any other discussion, board members? Mr. Floyd?
I have a couple questions. Is that okay? Okay. One of the things I wanted to make sure we clarify is this has come up tonight. Once this is set tonight, talking about the Beverly Hills kids, okay? Are they being redistricted or are they being swung? Because if they're being swung, then I feel like we can still work on that. If they're being redistricted, are we saying that's final tonight, what we decide, and what's going to happen to them? Are there options out as far as being able to try to find a way to stay together through a couple things we can talk about later? But that's the main thing I want to know first.
So right now you're voting on a realignment, scenario C revised, and that would realign the Beverly Hills Elementary School. So they wouldn't be swung, they would be realigned according to the scenario C revised.
Like, I guess the question would be, is there any path to going? I know we've been looking at it. Do we want to talk about that, or do we want to talk about if there's a path forward for looking at it more? I think we want to be very transparent with people about what the situation is here.
I think you always take into consideration some of the feedback. I've heard a lot tonight where people say we're not listening, and we are. So I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't some things that people are saying that we would not consider. But I want to caution the board. Our administration needs a vote on the realignment. I think there are a few items that could be readdressed and reviewed. But again, I want to caution the board that we cannot go back and look at 10, 15 things or redraw lines or things of that nature. I think there's some common sense points that have been brought up, not just tonight, but over time, that I think reasonably we can look at. But that does not mean that we're going to take the realignment. If the board should approve scenario C revised, we're not going to tear it apart. But I do think there are some reasonable things that have been brought up that we would take a look at. There are some points this evening that have been brought up in the past. I think we should take a look at moving forward. But I don't want to promise anybody anything. I don't want to sit here and say. I also don't want to muddy the water for the board. We need you to vote for scenario C revised up or down.
Right.
If that is approved, I do think there are a couple of items that we need to go back and look at as a team. I think it's reasonable that we should do that. I think there are some valid points that were brought to our attention. Common sense. I think you need to be logical and reasonable and use common sense when you're looking at some things. But again, there is no way we can go back there, make everybody happy, and start cutting this thing apart. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I think some of the things that were brought up this evening in the past, we could probably take a good look at. No promises.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Discussion, yes,
this and
and
change
possibly,
this discussion
possibly.
from scenario C revised into a different one.
Correct.
But it does need to be addressed tonight before we make that decision.
I'll say it out loud. The divider 1-1 bothers me. I mean, if you're talking 12 kids, I think that's common sense, right? I understand the rationale behind what was done, but I do think that's something to go back and look at. I understand the passion behind Beverly Hills kids. I want to take a look at that, but I cannot promise that. The majority of the Beverly Hills students are going together to Irvin Elementary School. And we looked at that. There's a group of them going to Weinkauf, and we can take a look at. And there's a small group going to Royal Oaks as well. I understand the passion behind them wanting them to be swung together. That's something we can look at. I just can't promise that right now. We have to take a look at that.
And I think as long as we can look at it and it's not affecting the entire realignment,
right,
with massive ripples, that's my main question.
And that's what I'm saying.
Come back and revisit that.
And I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you
That's
off
fine.
there.
No, I just hope I'm.
Mr. Floyd, I want to be clear. Like, I cannot, nor can our administration, go back and start cutting lines and looking at. I mean, we've probably had, numerous requests to take a look at certain things, and everybody's got a concern, everybody's got an issue, and I understand that. But to be honest with the board, there's 35,000 students, 360 square miles, 45 schools. I mean, there's a lot to take into consideration there, right?
Right.
And we said from the get-go, from the very beginning, that this wouldn't be perfect, but we would make it better. And without question, I fully believe and I'm completely confident that the recommendation that sits before you, after a year's worth of homework, research, work with consultants, working with our own team, that it is a better path forward for our school system. It is going to take the cooperation of the county, no question. We do need some schools built. And that's something that we will continue to work with them on. That's part of the process. But I do think this path forward is something that is going to make the school system in a much better position in terms of an alignment for our kids. And it aligns with the 4 objectives we had. Saying all that, I do think as the leader of the system, you have to always be reasonable and willing to engage. And I'll engage. I'm not saying I promise, but I'll engage. But I do think there are some things that have been brought to our attention we can go back and have some discussion with. Is that fair?
That's fair. I mean, you and I talked about this some, so I'm going to continue
I
talking about
understand.
it more. So
I just want to be real clear to the public and to the board. I'm not saying I'm going to change anything, but I will certainly look at those 2 or 3 items that kind of continue to linger out there. And Dr. Bowers and the team can tell you, we've had a lot of discussion about some of these, especially those that were brought up tonight, and we have looked at it. And when I say we've looked at every plan that's been proposed, we've looked at everything. And anybody that's brought something to us, we've looked at it. Some of it's made perfect sense. Some of it we're like, can't do that. So we will engage and we will be reasonable. Once you make the decision tonight, we'll go back, look at a couple of things, and then we will adjust accordingly. If any adjustments are made, we'll talk to the board, but they will be minor. Okay?
Very good. Thank you. I'll defer to someone else to get back on track here. Thanks.
Mr. Walter?
All right, well, I hold a different opinion on all that. I've dug into these numbers, I've looked at them backwards and forwards, and I see numerous issues with the plan as it is. I mean, I do also see, I did look at the proposal about can we fit the Beverly Hills kids, maybe the current R. Brown McAllister, and they do fit. It does take a delay on some of our redistricting plans, but then you keep going back and you try to see what are those downstream impacts. And there's nothing there that's critical that's going to put somebody or put a school way over capacity. There's seats available in that area, so it's doable if we want to do it. The issue I see is we don't have any funding to rebuild the school. So how long is that going to be? That's my big concern on that part. But anyway, I just think that the big part of redistricting is we have some huge growth in this county. We've talked about it for a year now, that we're going to be over 40,000 kids, students, at the end of this period, and we're doing very, very little to address the actual overcrowding issues. We're talking about aspirational, we want to make sure our feeder patterns work, and we want to make sure the transportation average is something, or we want to make sure that the degrees, college degrees that people have is fair. All aspirational stuff, but it doesn't address the actual growth that our county is seeing. I mean, as soon as you build a new school, you're changing the lines anyway, so you're not guaranteeing anyone that, gee, it's a line today. It doesn't say it's going to be a line tomorrow. I went through this last week on some of the ones that really stuck out. Again, it was some of those schools that were saying, hey, our average is great, but then we look at Concord Middle and it was below 50%. That means that's 600 kids that there's room to put over there, and this plan doesn't touch that. It makes a few. There's issues that we have with, just looking at the the impacts. Some of these things that we're adjusting, we're making major changes to Harrisburg Elementary. We're making major changes to Rocky River, which is a Title I school. We're taking half the kids and giving them all new kids. That completely takes all the work on the school improvement plan, throws it out the window, because it's not the same kids anymore.
So that's concerning. That can upset the school culture. That stuff I'm worried about. A lot of this redistricting plan seems to reverse what was done a couple of years ago on the high school and the middle school and even some of the elementary school levels. Well, I haven't heard enough justification why were we that off? Were we that wrong then?
Mr. Walter, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So we have a motion on the floor right now to approve this as presented. Do you have an amendment to the motion? Is there an action that you want to take at this time?
If you want an amendment, I would ask to delay the motion, delay this for a year. I think it should be reviewed further. There's still tweaks, like Dr. Kipicki was saying, common sense things that we can address. So if you wanted something, that would be my motion at this point would be to delay decision.
Are you putting that out on the floor for a motion for an amendment?
If I'd have a second.
Is there a second for Mr. Walters?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second.
We talked about we want to get this right. I mean, a lot of us have said that. Well, it's not right if there's issues here that we're not addressing. Growth. I mean, Cox Mill Elementary, 1,100 capacity, 1,100 kids, right? 1,135 is what we're predicting, and all we do is reduce it by 14. The ones that we were talking about.
So what is the amendment again, Mr. Walter?
Delay consideration on this redistricting plan.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, an amendment to the motion to delay the realignment. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No. That's a
Okay.
4-3.
Then I'd like to continue my discussion on why it's not a good plan to implement.
Is there anybody else that has anything else to discuss?
I do that.
Am I being cut? You're cutting me off? Do I have?
Well, I want to have the other board members to be able to talk. I'll come back to you. Mr. Treadaway.
Dr. Bowers.
Yes, sir.
Does Plan C revised, Mr. Walters said that utilization was our primary goal here. Does it increase utilization over what we have right now?
Across the district, the answer to that would be yes.
Yes. Revised C revised is called revised why?
There were two planning blocks that basically were reviewed on one of the final stages that came up and had some sort of concerns. Those were with the Wolf Meadow and the Weddington Hills boundaries. Those planning blocks, when we looked at the students, that being able to move them to Wolf Meadow created a disproportionate number of students who would come from an at-risk category. So rather than certainly letting that be the impetus behind it, it was better determined by the focus group, by the internal redistricting committee, by those who actually reviewed the final revisions of that to say keep those planning blocks at Weddington Hills.
My understanding that came from the ground up.
Yes, sir, that is correct. And I would offer, and I agree with what Dr. Kipicki said. I think one of the challenges here is being able to say we've had a lot of feedback, and I tell you, I'm just enamored with the fact that our public is so connected, passionate, and caring about their schools. I mean, that says a lot. But each one of these has come through, and some of the concerns that were shared here tonight actually came through in the focus group as well. So throughout the focus group process, that had been taken into consideration, had been shared, and there was feedback, and there was a chance for comment from the participants on that as well. So I don't want individuals to think that that never got to a point that it wasn't introduced in one of these committees or larger forums.
I know, because I remember from the timestamp that we received the information about facilities on August 14th. When did we first receive scenarios A, B, and C?
I'll have to go back and check those dates, but that would have been around, I don't want to misspeak, but I would say that was later in the process, much later. It was around November, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Months ago?
Yes, sir, that is correct. It would have been at the beginning of November.
Okay. Thank you.
Miss Lindsay?
So I have a question about the Mary Frances Wall. So the $11 million that we're slated to get from the county, that is already approved by them for, I guess I'm trying to figure out, if this passes tonight, is the plan to demolish Beverly Hills over the summer and go ahead and start that process with that $11 million?
That's correct. The county approved that in last year's budget, and then at the joint commissioners meeting, they gave us the okay to transfer that to the Mary Frances Wall project, Beverly Hills. So that project will start in the summer. Yes, we anticipate a July 1 start on that. There are some there's some abatement work that'll have to be done over the summer, and then we'll continue forward with that project.
And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up, which is part of the reason why I seconded Rob's motion, is I'm still concerned about the 5th and the 8th graders not being able to stay with their classes. We've never, and I understand we've never done a countywide realignment before, but that was really not truly, that information was not presented to us that was going to be the way that this was going to go initially. And I really struggle with that piece of it for those kids. And I say that because they have specifically, those children have been through so much over the last few years, especially those 5th graders. They, in pivotal times of their education, had to deal with virtual school and elementary school. And again, to put this other thing on top of all of that, after they've finally gotten back to school, they've finally gotten things a little bit back to normal, and not to let them transition or not to let them stay with the 5th graders and then also with the 8th graders of their school. I cannot do that to them. I know that's 990 kids, which in this realignment is a good portion of the kids that we're talking about. But that was my point when I spoke on that last week of what would it possibly hurt to let those kids be able to do that for one more year and stay with their classes. So that is something that I'm just in my heart, and I'm not doubting the work that you guys have done. I know, I mean, we've all busted our honeys sitting in meetings, looking at the data, asking the hard questions, doing all of that. This is in no way saying that I don't appreciate the work that you've done. But as an elected official, my job is not only to listen to you and your information, but also to the community and their needs. And truly, this is something that I'm not okay with for those kids. So,
Dr. Kopicki, do you want to respond to her?
Well, I think the legacy issue is, it just has a lot of domino effects in it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail to drill it down, but we did say we think that it's a good idea to honor the seniors and let them stay. But the problem really becomes there's actually 832 kids affected across the elementary, middle, and high school numbers. The numbers for the elementary school, there's 337 elementary students, 498 middle school students, and 129 high school students. So we do agree that it's appropriate the legacy to 12th grade students in. There's just a lot of reasons why we don't. The main reason is you have a lot of transportation issues. You're going to have a legacy situation that really doesn't end. I'm going to give you, for instance, I'm not saying this affects everybody, but if you leave the 8th grade students stay there next year, they're in 7th grade now, they stay in 8th grade. If they have brothers or sisters that are going into 6th grade, I ask, what do you do the following year then with those students when their students transition into their high school? Now they are there, the legacy them in. If they have another sibling coming behind them, you could have 2 or 3 kids then that are falling into that path, and it's a legacy situation. In some ways, we're still dealing with some of that legacy issue from previous realignments, trying to get kids to transition to the school that they're actually aligned to. I understand the difficulty of it, but the best thing for the district in terms of the recommendation is to honor the 12th grade students, those that have become seniors, and have the 5th and 8th grade seniors transition now. Their thought was that the 8th graders will all go together as a group, and they would spend a year together getting to know each other. that's helpful as well. It's just all the way around. It makes it better for the realignment if we do it all in one time to have them all instead of, because you're going to continue to be realigning with the kids, so to speak, for years to come down the road, and that is one of the issues. So we want to have the recommendation go through, realign the children, work with everyone to make sure that we set them up and move from there. Nobody wants to hear it, but kids go to new classrooms every day. They go to new classrooms every year. They have new teachers every year. They have new situations every year. People do move quite frequently. And the teachers and the administrators in the district are phenomenal. They will work with our kids to make sure that they feel accustomed to where they are, become adjusted to their new surroundings. And I remind everyone, and we know this, every school in our district is outstanding. It's not just one school. It's all of the schools in our county are fantastic. And that's because of the teachers that serve our kids. And Dr. Bowers, you want to comment more on this, please do.
No, sir, I think you summed up a lot of things. And again, I would offer that another challenge that we do see when we have, when there are opportunities to be able to have a legacy status for a grade level of students, that there are these one-off years where they create larger than normal grade levels or grade spans. A lot of your programming and staffing and resources are based on, in some cases across middle schools, somewhat of an even distribution, if you will. Same number 6, 7, and 8. When you have an extraordinarily large or inordinately large number of 8th graders, that presents challenges from a master scheduling standpoint within the building. Additional teachers would be needed to offset some of those schools that would have a higher than average or higher than normal 8th grade group, and then it would be for a 1-year period, only to then reallocate and redistribute those staff elsewhere. So it does compound itself to a degree of having a staffing challenge. Not to say that's the only reason, but it just is another factor to consider in that as well.
It's a combination of all those factors that play into it. It's not just one thing that makes it very complicated to do.
Okay, Ms. Andage?
Sure. So a question that I had from some of the speakers tonight, how did we miss those 12 kids?
I wouldn't say that they were missed.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that then. How is it that we are in the 11th hour talking about 12 kids that would be moved? If it's already been discussed, we already knew about them, why are they pleading in the 12th hour?
Well, to be frank, I think we've been very careful about touching the revised recommendation to the board. I think the conversations have evolved over time. This did not surprise, it didn't pop up out of anywhere. We just felt as though the recommendation was to be made, and again, as I said, we are reasonable. We're not saying that we would never adjust anything, but I don't think we want to start cherry picking the plan apart. So, we've had conversations. Dr. Bowers can tell you, we've had conversation about that as recently as this last week. We've talked about it, so it's not new to us, and it's something we continue to talk about. In fact, it was God help me, who showed me the map today? It was today. Someone showed me the map today. Oh, Mr. Fur and I talked about this afternoon because we pulled the map up and we looked at the overview of the map. We looked at that particular area and the development where it sits in relationship to the airport. And then we went down to see what is the right and left-hand turns of that particular situation. When they come out of the development, they make the right to go to JMR. They can't go left to go to Cox Mill. However, in saying that, when you look at the map and you say, okay, right turn, down, come back around Popperton, come up, Cox Mill is right there, it makes perfect sense. You make the right turn, you kind of got the Cross Expressway, go over to Popperton Road and kind of make the right-hand turn and go up towards J.M. Robinson. So I actually looked at that today again to get another visual to say, hey, you know what? This one bothers me. So nothing anyone said today is not something that we haven't been looking at. And again, to that point, we looked at it again today. We pulled up the map and looked at it in great detail. And we were counting how many homes were in there and what were the kids in there. And that was some of the discussion we had. So we are hearing people.
So a few more things. So the likelihood that should this pass today, there could be changes after this is passed today. Do I hear that correctly?
What I'm saying is there could be small modifications to the plan, and I mean small. I don't think it's feasible or possible to honor all the requests that are coming through. That particular one, I think, is a very reasonable one to take a look at and say, you know what, this really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to send these kids farther away when it's right here. We can work that one out. So that's one I think we can definitely take care of. But again, when you look at that from a common sense point of view, it just makes sense. And again, but it's not that the rest of them don't make sense. It's just it just makes sense. I don't know how else to say it. Dr. Bowers, you want anything to add to that?
No, sir. I think everything you shared is accurate. Obviously, there's a proximity element that's been addressed tonight as well. We talked about the road network. We recognize that with any boundary proposal to which presented, there are going to be those individuals to which do live closer to some of the schools to which they may be sort of redistricted, realigned, or reassigned away from. So all those factors are taken into consideration. And I do want to illustrate this as well, and Dr. Kopicki has certainly shared this, is that it is not as if this is something that was overlooked. There was feedback, there's been constant review, there's been, again, multiple trips out. Our transportation team, we've even taken them out, we've been driven those road networks ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's how meticulous and sort of laser-like we've given the focus on this. So with that, we've collected feedback and it's brought us where we are tonight.
And again, when I say reasonable too, 12 kids out of 35,000 kids, that's reasonable. But there are 7, 8 other requests. You can't start cherry picking the plan. It has to, we have to push forward and either accept or reject the recommendation.
Gotcha. I just wanted to understand the likelihood of revisions post an approval of this plan, which it sounds like that's possible. It just depends on who wants what to happen, in my opinion. The last thing I'll say is I have not had to rationalize with myself or try to justify my decision across this process. From the beginning, I've been leery of the district-wide redistricting. I've been leery of the consultants. I've asked millions of questions, probably questions that folks didn't want to ask, and folks probably wanted me to just shut up. I don't have to justify anything that I've said. I stand by that every single kid is one kid of 35,000, and we have got to take into account the individual as we take into account the whole. We are the sum of all of our parts, not 35,000 and that's it. So again, I just want to say I ain't had to rationalize nothing. I am good with where I am. I love all of our children. I love all of our teachers, all of our staff that work here. I respect you and what you bring to this district. I am going to respectfully disagree with this plan, and if y'all don't have anything else to say, Rob, if you don't have anything else to say, I'm ready to vote. I ain't changing my mind on nothing. So I just want to say thank all of y'all. I appreciate everybody that sent me an email. I have read every single last one of your emails. I probably haven't responded to you, but if you pay attention, I've sent a thumbs up or a heart or something just so that you know I am listening to you. Again, I ain't got to rationalize nothing, so I'm ready.
Oh, I do have more to say.
Mr. Walter?
I was cut off earlier, but we just went ahead and we talked about kids being resilient and adapting, yet we're thinking we want to move several hundred of them just because it looks better aspirational on it doesn't make sense. It's not if it's not to support the school, we shouldn't be doing that at this point unless we have to. There's another one, Weddington Hills. 170 kids are in mobile units. That's not okay for me. And we're adding, this plan adds 53 more kids to that school. Not, there's just one after another. If you look at the data, the consultant's own estimates, there are issues. I mean, Odell and Cox Mill bursting at the seams, this plan doesn't do a thing. So, Carl at Fur, 95%, they've expecting a bunch more, and we're adding to that too. So, granted, it addresses some issues at Hickory Ridge, and it addresses some issues at Boger, but overall, district-wide, it is not helping us with our capacity issues, and that's what we need to sell to our commissioners to get them to help us with additional facilities, is to show that we're using our space wisely.
Mr. Walter, may I though? You bring up a good point. I don't mean to cut you off. But you're right. We need our commissioners to help us build schools, especially in that northwest area that you just mentioned. The only way you need a school there to help you with some of those issues up there. So I do appreciate you making that point. Thank you.
Okay, well, if you're already ready to vote on it, that's fine. But yes, I did spend a lot of time trying to look at the numbers that the consultant gave us, and it adds lots of questions. And I also am concerned about the limited public involvement. I think we should have gone out to the folks that are actually getting impacted and talked to them, and just to talk to them about our rationale on the specific schools, and we didn't particularly do that. So those are my points.
Anything else, board members? Mr. Floyd?
If we could maybe, Dr. Bowers, elaborate, because Rob brought up a good point about, some of these numbers, how they look right now. And as a snapshot in time right now, if we froze time, it doesn't necessarily solve all our problems. If we could freeze time right now, which I've been trying to do for a long time, myself unsuccessfully. But now we talk a lot about projecting out over the next 10 years. How do we do that? How do we know that we're right about that? Are we doing that? What does this look like over time for what we're doing with the plan, as opposed to a snapshot in time now and trying to drive with our rearview mirror instead of driving with our eyes on the road forward?
No, and a great question. And I think that's one of the things we have to base this off the information we have available at this moment. And all of those are valid. There's been nothing in the models that has been shared with us from Cooperative that our own in-house team hasn't looked at and say, we see parallels alongside that. And when we say projections, they're of that. Some of these moves now do make some short-term gains to be able to position ourselves for better long-term success. Mr. Walter mentioned a couple of those. Why would it indeed we see some utilization increases at some of these sites? Well, again, I would just double back and say, this plan by itself, if it was just a realignment effort, there are some pinch points that we would experience that would not be able to give us that immediate redress and that relief to which we need. But we cannot look at it without looking at the facilities master plan. And I respect the fact that there's a lot of contingencies and what ifs and things like that built upon. But that's why, to be able to get to a position where we can be better for the future, better moving forward, so this has become a repetitive process by which is being played out every time a new school opens or every time we start to experience some pocket growth. The facilities master plan is an important element of this. It factors that in. It takes into consideration. It looks at potential new school sites and recognizes that when they come online, we will be moving fewer students in the future to be able to fill those seats than if we had done nothing and moved students now, only to then again revisit that and do so 2 years from now. To do nothing at some of the schools that have been referenced tonight at Hickory Ridge or Harrisburg and just leave those sit, let's now move students to be able to create relief now. Well, we're targeting that southwestern portion of the county for a new school. If that were to come online 2 years from now, we're moving kids right back again. And so again, I think that one of the things I would certainly always implore to keep in mind is that this is married to the facilities master plan. And we have to recognize that. So some areas are not going to experience these same growth projections down the road. They just don't have that same high rate of return for student growth year after year after year, and it becomes somewhat static. But the western part of our county is where we're going to see that. It will continue to be. And so our efforts are just that. It's being able to use what we have available to be able to make those informed decisions right now, follow the trends that have occurred in the past, be able to see what are the developments. Another part that's not come up tonight, construction and new developments. There's been some mention right now of what has been some rationale. I think Harris Road is one that I heard as well. The Harris Road Middle School boundary as it exists today, there are 1,875 active units within that boundary right now, that middle school boundary. That is construction taking place. That is shovels in the dirt. There are 351 projects out there right now that are in review. That's the next phase you get to before you have activity. Sum total of 2,226. Now when we look at Harris Road and we say, hey, redistricting, realignment has now brought more students back into that, the proposal does do that, yes. But what it also does, it eliminates 1,200 active units out of that middle school boundary. We go from 1,875 down to 675 active units. That's the growth we would not see down the road. That's stabilization. We go from 351 units in review down to 281. The proposal reduces the number of in-review and active sites total by 54%. Again, when I talk about the facilities master plan alongside that, that's an important element.
Yeah.
So we can look at some of the utilization and question that today, and respectfully, I understand that because that's how it would look on paper. But in the absence of the number of active sites, just the northwest Cabarrus area alone, we're talking 3,935 total active and in-review sites that are going to be taking place here. That's why we're positioning students now, so we don't have to continue to do this.
Okay, but our consultant takes that stuff into consideration, gives us a forecast on how that impacts how many students are coming into the area. And they've done that. And they said we'll be over capacity at 26, 27 if we didn't do anything. And that's why we took some action there. But we didn't for a number of other ones. And anyway, the other point is the facilities master plan, the board has not been presented that to approve. So we don't even have one yet. And maybe that should be part of something we're doing now as part of this redistricting plan, if it's, as well as the program choice plan. All that stuff's interrelated and should be presented because it's all one picture, not just parts of a picture.
And this is where, you know, you have your system and our collaboration with the county comes into play. I mean, the county had asked, if we recall this going back a year ago, one of the things the county had said was they would like to see a plan so they could adequately plan for the future in terms of how they build schools. Well, we did that, and we gave them a plan. And let's not forget that on January 29th, we had our joint commissioners meeting, and they laid out a financial plan in front of everyone to see. They didn't put that up there without having the thought process that, hey, they understand that we need to build schools. And as Dr. Bowers has said perfectly tonight, you know, we cannot realign our way out of this problem. Realignment's not getting you away from the growth. The realignment and the master facilities plan is what you're going to need to get yourself to a better place long term. But the realignment positions us in a great place, along with the master facilities plan, to have a very sustainable future where we're not realigning every couple of years. I mean, the system forces us to work with the county, and we're going to be presenting that budget over the next 2 months in March and in April and having conversations with the county. We've talked with the county all year long. We've kept them involved in this process all the way through. They are fully and completely aware of what the ask is going to be and what the needs are as we move forward. So, you know, that is part of the growth. That is part of addressing the growth. And I think that is something that they are going to come through on in terms of helping us build those schools and helping us to address the growth issues.
Okay, board members, are y'all ready to vote, or is there any other discussion?
I call for the question.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving the recommendation given by the district leadership, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
So that is a 4-3 vote. That motion passes. We'll move to 14.01. Call for a motion that this meeting be adjourned. I have a motion by Ms. Lindsay, a second by Ms. Escobar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? The meeting is adjourned.